Good morning and welcome back to Withrow Urban Homestead. Today we're going to start broccoli rabe. We're going to use 2-inch soil blocker. And a sturdy 10 by 10 bootstrap farmer tray. We're also going to use a dome. You'll see it referred to as a greenhouse dome or a humidity dome. The seeds are from Baker Creek. They are heirloom. Hang on a second. And this is the soil we're going to use. It's ProMix organic garden potting soil. The seeds are tiny. And we're going to put 3 in each hole of the soil blocks. It's 10 weeks before our last freeze, and you're going to read a variety of recommendations on when to start broccoli seeds inside. I found the range of 4 weeks to 9 weeks before. But we're going to start it 10 weeks before our last freeze. Now, broccoli seeds don't require light to germinate. So I like to put a little bit of soil on top of each seed. And the dome is going to help hold in the moisture and help with germination. They're going to germinate in 7 to 14 days. It's an exciting time with so much growing. We're going to put this broccoli outside about mid-April, 2 weeks before our last freeze. Here, our last frost tends to be at the end of April. When they're a few inches tall and have developed some roots, we'll pot them up into these bigger pots. We're also going to use some of these cheaper pots to share with our community because 16 broccoli plants is too many for me. We're going to use this for my husband Dale's salads. Good morning and welcome back to Withrow Urban Homestead. Today we're going to pot up broccoli. We're going to use 4-inch pots and I've already got them prepared. Now we're going to use these 2 different kind of pots because I love sharing plants with my community. I have a shelf set up behind the garage where I give away plants for free. So these sturdy black pots, they're a little more expensive than something I want to give away. But these are reasonably priced and I don't mind people keeping these. Now the soil we're going to use is ProMix. It's their organic garden potting soil variety. Here's what it looks like. I like that it comes compacted with a handle. It's easy for me to store. Now, technically, this is broccoli Rabe, but it's going to be the exact same way you're going to plant up broccoli that forms big heads. First, we need to thin, and I'm going to use these special pointed tip embroidery scissors because we sowed more seeds than one in each soil block, but we just want one seedling per pot. Now, we sowed these seeds 2 weeks ago. And they germinated really quickly. It only took 3 days. But they're getting leggy right now, so I'm going to want to make sure I plant them deep and put some soil around the stem. I'm going to do it carefully because those little stems are fragile and I don't want to pinch them. Broccoli seeds germinate best between 70 and 75 degrees. And this furnace room tends to run 65 to 75, so that's just perfect. But they're going to grow best at 40 to 70 degrees. So after I get them potted up, I'm going to bring them to the front of the basement and put them with the red cabbage where it's cooler. It tends to run 55 to 65 degrees in that front room. So it's 9 weeks before our last frost. And these are going to stay inside growing under the lights 5 more weeks. Now 4 weeks before our last frost, at the beginning of April, we're going to start hardening them off. Bring them outside so they can get used to the weather, the wind and the sun and the temperature. A few hours out, a few hours in. And we'll slowly increase their time. Then 2 weeks before our last frost, we're going to plant them out into the garden. That's going to be mid-April. Good morning and welcome back to Withrow Urban Homestead. Today I'm going to show you how I fixed my crooked leaning broccoli stems. Now 3 weeks ago, I potted these up and they started to flop over and grow crooked. So I've been using some tags to try to prop them up, but it hasn't worked that great. So I'd add a tag and the next day they'd flop over a different way. So I'd add a second tag and they'd flop over a different way. And I felt like I was constantly chasing them to make them grow straight. So I came up with an idea. I ordered some straws. And I already had some skewers. And it worked. Now, I added these last week and I waited to film it because I wanted to make sure it didn't damage the plants. But they've been growing nice and healthy. They look good. And it was so simple. Let me show you how I did it. These are just your basic kitchen skewers. And you want to look for jumbo or smoothie straws because you want them to be nice and thick, not the thin type. And I saved 2 broccoli plants to show you how to do it. Now first, you're going to want to trim off these baby leaves. You can also pinch them off. I'm going to cut this one off because it's broken. Then you want to measure the straw. Cut a slit. And carefully wrap it around the stem. Now, originally I envisioned pushing the stem down into the soil, but it didn't work. The roots are just too thick. So I'm going to use a skewer to support it. And if your skewer goes in a little crooked, just pull it out and put it back in again. And the leaves are tilted, but they'll straighten up later on. And it was so simple. It's just so easy. See how the leaves have straightened up? Those will do the same thing. And because the straw is slit, as the stem grows thicker, the straw will expand and it won't damage the stem. Now, when I fixed these other ones, they were much thinner. But the stems have thickened up because I wanted to save a few to show you. And this will work with many varieties of seedlings. I used it on my okra. Now, when I plant them out in the garden, will they stand up straight without the straws? I suspect they will, but come back and check. Good morning and welcome back to Withrow Urban Homestead. Today we're going to start hardening off our broccoli. Now we're going to start hardening off the broccoli 4 weeks before our last frost. Then we're going to plant it out in the garden 2 weeks before our last frost. Broccoli likes cool weather. Technically, this is broccoli Rabe, but it's the same concept for any broccoli. Now these seedlings are 6 weeks old. I started them in 2-inch soil blocks, then potted them up 4 weeks ago. Because they started to flop over 2 weeks ago, I added a straw around the stem and supported it all with a wooden skewer. To help it grow up straight. Now, as the stem grew and the straw expanded, I removed the straw. And that was after about 10 days. Now, next time, I'm going to take the straw off maybe after 7 days because that skewer had started to mold. It didn't seem to hurt the broccoli stem itself. I don't see any damage. It looks really strong. Now I'm going to start these hardening off near the fence because that's more protected. The house wall is full. Today, I'm only going to leave them outside for 2 hours because they're not used to the sun, the temperature, and the wind. And when they're not outside, they're going to be here in the kitchen under these lights. Every day I'm going to wait until it gets to be above 55 degrees to bring them outside because if spring broccoli is exposed to temperatures below 55 consistently, they can bolt. They'll never develop the right size head. Or like this variety, it's just not going to develop all those shoots. Every day will also increase the time and how much sun they're getting and wind, various factors like that. Now, I know I have a lot of digging wildlife I need to protect them from, but I've also here in early April already seen the white cabbage butterflies, and they will lay their eggs and just destroy the broccoli. So I need to add a fine mesh net. Now that net is a blueberry netting that actually has a zipper. It's something I already had, but any fine netting will do. Good morning and welcome back to Withrow Urban Homestead. Today we're going to plant out our broccoli Rabe. It's an Italian vegetable also known as rapini. Now I'm growing it for the flower buds, for dill salads. It's an alternative to broccoli because a big head of broccoli, that'll just be more than we can use for the salads and it won't keep. This is a better fit for us. Let me show you one of the buds. Now, because it's for salads and Dell eats those every day, I want to plant this near the house because I'm going to harvest it often. I don't want to have to go all the way to the back of the garden. Let me show you where we're going to plant it. And because it's in the brassica family, I'm going to have to protect it from cabbage worms. So I've set up these hoops, and they're really tall. They're called super hoops. And I'm going to cover this with some netting. It's right back there. And I'm going to leave the netting on the full growing season, and it's going to get tall. Now this is my first time using the super hoops. I've just bought them and so far I like them. But you need to remember these are only designed to be used as hoops. They're not to be designed to be used as trellises or arches, only to hold row covers. Now I did add some stakes to give it more support because they're so tall, and when they're covered, the wind can really blow it around, especially because it comes from that direction. It just needed some more support. I'm going to make a full video on how I set up the super hoops later. And because it's going to grow about 14 inches tall, I don't want to use my low hoops. At the height in the middle, it's only 18 inches. And along the edges, it gets lower really quickly. And the broccoli Rabe's going to get about 10 inches wide. So these super hoops are a better option. Plus, the onions can stay in there the whole season because the onion tops, they're going to keep growing. They're going to get pretty big too. So I measured, and it's about 38 inches across and 41 inches tall. But the edges are straighter than my lower hoops. The lower hoops are only 18 inches tall. Now you're going to want to plant your broccoli Rabe in the garden 2 to 4 weeks before your last frost. Now right now it's 2 weeks before our last frost, mid-April. And these really should have been planted last week, but we just had torrential rains and winds. So these are already 8 weeks old and they're ready. Now, you're going to want to space them 6 to 12 inches apart. So on this Hori, that's 12 inches. And then here it's marked at 6 inches. I'm going to go ahead and space mine 12 inches apart. Now, if you have a big garden, you can measure the rows between 18 to 24 inches. But I grow in a small space. So I measured 12 inches from the row of onions. That's how I spaced my rows. These were really ready to get out of those pots. See how they were stuck in there and had to really bang it on the bottom. And the roots, I had to tease them apart really gently because they were root bound. You can also plant it up to its neck, up here to the first set of leaves. That won't hurt it. It'll be just fine. Now, the recent temperatures have been on a roller coaster, freezing cold days, and this week it's going to be in the 80s. It hasn't been normal. This has stressed out some of the leaves and they've changed colors. And if they wilt, later I'll just trim them off. Also, we haven't passed our last freeze. And if these are still recently transplanted and the temperatures drops down in the 30s, I will cover them with some fleece. Now, if they had been transplanted 2 or 3 weeks and they were established, the cold won't hurt them. Now, the flower buds, don't wait for them to get really big. It'll never happen. You want them to be about quarter size. This one just started, so I'll give it some more time. Then you're going to want to trim off the top several inches, leaves and all. And you can chop it all up and use it as a salad or to cook it in oil, and it is delicious. Later, more side shoots will appear, and you can cut those off, and then you're going to get a third harvest from them. But they're not going to last the full summer. So when we get to those third side shoots, I'll plant some more, and we'll see how long it lasts. This is my first time growing broccoli rabe. Now, the netting is going to protect from the white cabbage butterflies. I just saw one here, so I need to hurry up. But slugs also like to eat these, so I'm going to put down some organic Sluggo. But I got to be careful because the birds love this stuff. Now, it won't hurt them, but if I put the Sluggo down near the net, they will poke holes in the net to get to it. It happened to me last year. So I don't want it near the edge of the netting. Now the rest of these I'm going to share with the community. Behind our garage, I have a shelf set up for free plants, and let's go put them out there. I love sharing with the neighbors. Good morning and welcome back to Withrow Urban Homestead. Today I'm going to give you a broccoli rabe update. This broccoli rabe was planted mid-April and we started harvesting at the very end of the month. I use it in my husband Dale's salads. If I harvest it, get it washed right away and put in the fridge, it lasts about a week. And what parts do I use in his salad? The flower buds and the flowers too. And the small tender leaves, let's see, like this one. Now when I harvest the broccoli rabe, I don't just cut off the tips. I cut way down on the plant because it grows back really quickly. See how that's flexible? You can eat that whole stem. But this one, it's stiff. It's too woody. And these small tender leaves, they taste like spinach. But the bigger leaves, they're just too bitter. And I try to find every last small flower bud because they're going to open really quickly. I also don't want to leave the flowers because they'll go to seed and then the plant will stop making new buds. Now, this has gotten plenty of rain and I haven't watered. The mulch has helped too. Nighttime temperatures have been in the 50s and 60s, so it hasn't turned bitter yet. Now I'm not going to harvest this very last one. I'm going to leave this one to keep flowering and go to seed for next year's broccoli rabe. Now I still need to protect it from three things: slugs, kind of flying pests, and make sure I put the netting back on to protect from cabbage worms. Here it tends to be white cabbage butterfly caterpillars. Good morning and welcome back to Withrow Urban Homestead. Today I'm going to show you how we use broccoli rabe. So come on into the kitchen. Now, in the beginning of the spring, all the stems were tender, perfect for sauteing, and the flowers and the buds were all clumped at the top of the stalks. Now they're all spread out because it's the end of the season. This is probably our last harvest. Thank you for visiting Withrow Urban Homestead. See you later. Bye-bye.